Visit SportsTimeOhio.com.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of All Bets Are Off. Andre not sitting in for Bruce. Bruce will return on Sunday as he usually does to get you ready for the week. And as you see right there, we have some Indians players that we think we know, but we don't completely know just yet. And that's what this segment is all about. We have Tony Listora. He's in the house, sitting right next to me to talk about the top 100 prospects in the Cleveland Indians organization. And once they take the picture of your beautiful book, Tony, first thing I'll ask you is how you're doing and how long does it take for you to put one of these things together?
Doing great. Glad to be here. That's a thing that goes on throughout the course of the whole season. It's actually starting right now. Next year's book's starting right now. So takes all throughout the year, and usually it takes about 2 months during the off season to kind of whittle it down, and then another 2 months to kind of put it all together, another month to get it all printed and everything. So it's a long, year-long process.
Has it surprised you how fans, we want this type of stuff?
Yeah.
You know, I know in the business I work in, I get emails constantly, tell me about this guy in Kinston, tell me about this guy. And I'll be honest, between Mark Schwab and myself, I've emailed or IM'd Mark Schwab a million times while I'm on there going, dude, I think I know a lot about this team, but they're asking me about some kid I have no idea about. You're the guy that I should be IMing, I guess. Right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I know when the Indians kind of changed that philosophy about 6 years ago when they made the whole Cologne and Sizemore trade, they kind of transitioned to the whole farm system, and there wasn't a lot of information back then about these guys, and it was kind of one thing I really started trying to get into, and then when we started up our site and Sports Time Ohio kind of partnered up with us, it kind of got my foot in the door where I can go out and see these guys play and talk to coaches, front office guys, and scouts. So
it's a fun way to go about it. And I think the other cool thing about the Cleveland Indians right now is not only can you go over to Progressive Field and see these guys play, but you can go out to Eastlake and you can see them play. You can go out to Akron and now even in Columbus. Not that Buffalo was far away, but I think the whole Ohio thing and being able to stay within Ohio, I think for the fans that are of the Indians, it's cool. For me, I can give you a perfect example. Before I knew who Fausto Carmona was, I was out at Eastlake, just happened to be in Eastlake because they were opening up a new park, blah, blah, blah. And I'd read a little, you'd read like maybe a paragraph that big about some lanky kid named Fausto Carmona. I go out and I watch him pitch, and I instantly go, all right, this guy's going to be special. Now, at the time, he was a 6 foot, 470-pound beanpole of a kid. And in that same year, I remember seeing Adam Miller. And that's the name that I'll start off with for you. Obviously, he's had the finger injuries and everything else. But I think for you, if a person goes out and gets this book, it'll be really cool to see Irvin Santana, to read and say, okay, this guy, or not Irvin Santana, Carlos Santana.
The guitar player.
Oh, yeah, the guitar player. That's how I got to think of it. But it'll be cool to read about Carlos Santana in this book and then be able to go down to Akron and check him out because I know I've been able to do that. Now, let me get to Adam Miller. Then we'll get to the top prospects. Because of injuries, how can you rank a guy like that?
It's an interesting thing where you kind of balance out projection, performance. Everybody does it differently. Some, Baseball Prospectus does stuff where it's all stat-based a lot of times. Baseball America is all tool-based. I kind of go right down the middle where I'm kind of combining all those elements. And if you look at a guy like Adam Miller, when he's healthy, he's an impact player. He's a front rotation starter. He's a back-end impact bullpen guy. Throws high, he tops out 101. He used to, probably now 98 now, but he's got good secondary stuff. So that's what you still look at when he's healthy, what he can be. Now the injuries, you can't predict them, but obviously now he's dinged up again a little bit with the finger. But you just got to look at the talent.
Okay. So it's number one is talent first and foremost. All right, let's get into your top prospects. I think. For most people, a year ago at this time, we didn't know who Carlos Santana was. I didn't know. I got a Carlos Santana or CD or two in my car, but we didn't know the Carlos Santana, the catcher. I've read a little bit about him. He's a switch hitter, obviously. Grew up emulating Victor Martinez. But it seems like this guy may, at some point in time, have a little bit more pop than a Victor Martinez.
Yeah, it's funny. When they made that trade at the end of July last year, I was out in Florida for a family thing, and I had planned to go see Kinston in Myrtle Beach on the way back, and just so happens a week, he was with the team for a week, and I got to go see him in Myrtle Beach for a couple of games. I was just floored by this guy. He's got the ball just jumps off his bat. He's not a very big guy, only about 5'11", but he's built like a Greek god. He's just very strong. Being a catcher, he's just extremely athletic, which is what's different between him and Victor Martinez, where he can steal a bag. He's a former outfielder and third baseman, so Yeah, he's got that same pop. And a lot of people kind of compare him to a Victor Martinez. It's exactly who he kind of projects to be, but maybe he has a little bit more of a better plate discipline where he can draw more walks and strikeouts kind of thing.
Was Casey, and when you look at that trade, it was the Casey Blake trade, correct? Yeah, and I'm nothing against Casey Blake, but as I hear you talk, and the other kid that they picked
John Malone.
John Malone, and we're going to get to him in a sec, that seems like Mark Shapiro really did his homework to get these two kids.
And this is what happens almost every year at the trade deadline, where teams overpay for guys, for marginal guys who think they think. And we see the Indians do it all through the '90s and 2000, where they sent away Brian Giles and Sexton, all those guys. Casey at the beginning of whatever was it, '98. But I mean, teams overpay for guys just to kind of fill out a team to win that year. And we saw it 6 years ago. I think. It was Victor Zambrano for Scott Kazmir.
Oh yeah,
insane
where
trade.
Tampa Bay just
And this trade is kind of on that same level potentially, where Santana is going to probably be an impact catcher. I mean, obviously, he hasn't played above the single A level yet, but going by that progression, it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward.
All right, I don't want to put you on the spot, Tony, but how soon do you think people in Cleveland will see Santana out into Progressive Field?
Well, he's 40-man rostered already, so it could be very soon. If he goes out to Akron this year, the Indians are going to take their time because they've obviously got Shopik behind Victor. They've got two guys in Buffalo or Columbus.
I'm I'm the same way.
I'm going to be painting the fun there, but you got Jimenez and Torres up in Columbus, so. Santana will probably get most of the year in Akron. He may spend some of the year at the end of the year in Columbus and may get a September call-up thing. But I think next year, in 2010, you may see him at some point, which kind of coincides with Victor.
Right.
He's a free agent after next year.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about that just yet. And Jimenez, the catcher that's going to AAA, Columbus, I almost had to pay the fine as well. He can play multiple positions. He's the guy that can play a little bit of outfield. He's kind of the typical, whenever we make a joke about the Indians, it's like we have 15 first baseman / outfield DHs. Jimenez is one of those guys that can kind of do all those things, correct?
He's a wedge guy. And he's a guy that, great clubhouse guy. He can play everywhere except for probably shortstop, second base, and center field. And he could probably do those in a pinch. He's got great power, and he's got good plate discipline. He's just a guy that's going to run through walls. He's kind of like the Casey Blake kind of guy that, and I think the fans are going to love him when he eventually gets here.